You're welcome to another time. You're welcome to the Crystallizers. My name is Harkheindzel Kenny Omiyale, and people call me the Spirit Mentalist. You're welcome to a new year. And I'll be taking you on a journey, a different journey, a journey that changes many things for you. I hope you're ready for this journey, because I am. Alright, let's go. It is important for you to see and realize that your life is much more than you see today. It is important for you to realize that you have much more power than you realize than you're using today. It is important for you to realize that you're not giving yourself credit enough. It is important for you to realize that you don't know yourself. And the reason is simple. And the reason is this. Everything that happens to you, everything that happens in your own life is your making, needs your permission, and it is your responsibility. So the first thing you need to realize about the new year is this. Whatever you want the year to be for you has to be by your making. You can't depend on another person. You can't depend on another thing. You can actually have things to work with you, but it has to be by your intention and your permission. And so, I will be taking you on what I call the art of the crystallizers. You see, 2019, as at the time this was being recorded, is a year of crystallizers. And what does that mean? It means that there will be wisdoms to create things, and not just physical things, but things beyond our time, things beyond our realm, things beyond our understanding, things that becomes very difficult to understand. Why? Because we have an art. We understand certain things in certain ways. There will be downloads of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And all of these are modicums to understand how the creation of every year is. For everything to be created, you need to understand the laws that must be set in place for such a creation to appear. And that is why I started in the group by giving them a task, asking them, using the reference of the book of Genesis, chapter 1. I said, when did God create the heavens and the earth? So you see, many people are quick to jump and say Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Why? Because that's the simplest answer. That's the easiest. That is the most obvious. But in the art of the crystallizers, you need to search deep within the core, the truth, the darkness, the depths, and the wisdom of things. And that is why crystallizing is not an easy feat. And that is why not everyone will become crystallizers. Okay? But the important thing you need to realize is that crystallization is necessary. And you must do what is within your power to make it be. Okay. A little hint on the question I asked. When did God create heaven and the earth? Obviously, in the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. Then the Spirit of the Lord moved over the surface of the waters. And God said, light. And light became. That is a very deep saying about the essence of creation. That is the core of all crystallizers. How to call forth something out of nothing. But it doesn't start in the physical. Neither does it start in the mental. Oftentimes, neither does it start in the spiritual, but usually the spiritual is the Resh, is the genesis, is the precursor of every other thing. Now, the thing you need to understand about this particular thing, especially the reference to Genesis, is that there are certain and different levels and realms of creation. There is the first level, which is Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, where it says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But you realize that there needs to be, I wouldn't really want to go into depth of all of this because this is an audio. In the class we really talk about the depths of that. But there are basically 3 levels of creation that everyone must have. The first is obviously spiritual. The second is mental, which is the soulish realm. And the third is the physical realm. Now, in the spiritual realm, you need to understand the calling and the naming of things. Everything must first appear as a name, just like Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, a heaven and an earth. We didn't know what it looked like, we didn't know what they are like, but we had a naming. And that naming is very important because that is the calling, that is the seed through which everything is created. Now, if you go to the soulish level, that is where the image of that name needs to be formed. Now, the Bible records in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 talking about the earth. There was formless, it was void, and there was darkness over the surface of the deep. But that was the image of the earth, not the earth itself, because you realize later on that it's until when the seas were parted and the dry land appeared that God called the dry land earth. That is the physical manifestation of that which was spoken in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and that which was called for after it had been imagined. Now, many people start a new year without first calling the year or naming the year. They do not have an image of the year. That means they don't have a vision of how the year should be, not just a mental vision, but a legalistic vision by laws and principles of activation. It is only when the spiritual and the mental side of these things are completed that the physical form can come. And what many people want to see is the physical form. We want to see the house, we want to see the car, we want to see the spouse, we want to see the money. But all of these things will not come first until you understand the laws of creation, which is first spiritual, then mental, then physical. And that is how crystallization starts. And with this, I welcome you to the Crystallizers, where I'll be taking you on the legalistic approaches and processes involved in creating not just the year, but everything in your life, because you cannot fulfill your purpose without first creating it. Now, when it comes to the place of calling and naming, there are 2 important things, which are the power of words. You see, there are 2 types of words. There is what you call in Greek logos and the thetos, which is the endued word, the word that is processed, that is formed in your heart and in your spirit. And then there is the logos prophoricus. This is the uttered word. Now, these 2 words are very important. But we are in a generation where many people are quick to speak, that is logos prophoricus, without first having logos endithetos. And that is the reason why many of the things they say lack depth, lack character, lack spirit, and lacks life. Now, it takes time to get logos endithetos, just the same way the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the surface of the deep. That was the phase of culmination of logos endithetos. You will realize that it is not until that process was perfected before there was an utterance. Now, that utterance is logos prophoricus. That is the uttered word. You must have a logos endithetos before you can have a logos prophoricus. And you can have the endithetos in different ways. By visions, by dreams, by revelations, by meditation, by conceptualizing things and forming things in your heart. It is a heart matter first before it comes to the physical. So when you're talking about vision or creating 2019, you must first see it in your heart, from the Aleph to the Tav, to the Alpha to the Omega, from the beginning to the end. You must see everything in your heart. It is when the scene is complete and it has crystallized in your heart, It is at that moment that you can speak it forth. And that is when your words have power. And that is why when God spoke, His word was created, because it had the power based on the wisdom of Logos and Theathetos. It is the same thing you must learn. There are laws of creation that I will be teaching and showing you. Now, these laws will not just be by head knowledge. They are things that you must find experiences to, because without the experiences, you will not see the power therein. Alright? And that's how Logos and Theathetos and Logos Perforicus are. Now, when God, you need to realize something important, that God never called Adam by name. You read your Bible, if you check the ancient translation, God never called Adam by name. Of course, he talked to the man, but he never mentioned the name of the man. Why? There is a deep mystery behind this. Because upon the earth, God has given man the authority and dominion to rule the earth. And it is man's responsibility to name everything upon the earth, even himself. It is when you realize the man that God created and the man that we see today, there is so much, a lot of difference. But it's time for us to go back in time and envision and see that man that God created, because it is only through that man that the power of crystallization can come to us easily, because it came to Adam easily. There is a whole lot more to talk about in the mystery of naming, which I will take in the second session. But I want this to be an introductory session that awakens your consciousness, awakens your heart and your spirit, that there is much more to life than you are seeing. There is much more to life than you are living. There is much more to life than you are accepting right now. You can't live the best version of yourself. It starts by understanding the laws.